Hey everyone, we're back with another SAT English problem, and this is a command of evidence quantitative question. All right, we have a table, we have a paragraph, and the way that we usually solve these problems, well, here's a four-step strategy. So first thing we're going to do, we're going to read the question, right? Of course, we have to read the question. The second thing is to read the paragraph. The third thing is to read the answer choices, and the fourth thing is to read the table. And why is this? Why can't you just read this in, chronological order? Well, because if you just take a look at this table, take a cursory look at these numbers, the problem is that you're not going to remember these numbers by the time you actually get to the answer choices, or you're not even going to remember a general theme about those numbers by the time you get to the answer choices. And if you don't read this first, you're not going to know what you need to look for in the paragraph or in the table or in the answer choices. So let's read the question. Which choice best describes data from the table that supports the geographer's and hydrologist's argument? Well, we need to figure out what this argument is, so we're going to go to step 2, and let's see, we scan this paragraph. Team of geographers and hydrologists compare average annual precipitation, internal freshwater resources. They find that although precipitation is an important factor in determining freshwater availability, it is not the only one. Other factors, blah, 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 also affect how much freshwater is accessible and usable for human needs. And you'll notice I kind of skipped over this. Why? Because the factors aren't really mentioned here, right? This argument is not about the factors because, as we see in this final sentence here, thus they argue that two countries with similar precipitation levels can have very different freshwater availability situations. All right. So take a minute and pause and see if you can answer that question. All right. Well, given this information, we're going to take a look at these answer choices. The first one says Canada and Australia have similar precipitation levels, but different amounts of freshwater resources per capita. Now let's see, similar precipitation levels, different freshwater resources, that could be our answer. So we're not going to eliminate that one. If we look at B, Sierra Leone and Brazil have similar precipitation levels and similar amounts of freshwater resources. Well, this is kind of the opposite of what the researchers are saying. The researchers are saying that there's different freshwater availability situations, while this answer choice is saying similar. So we know that we can immediately eliminate answer choice B because it's arguing the opposite of what the researchers are saying. Now we take a look at C. C only involves Brazil, just as Brazil is the highest precipitation level and the second highest amount of freshwater resources per capita. Firstly, the researchers don't care about this. They're not arguing that, Brazil has the second or the third or the first. That's not their argument. They don't care about that. And this does not mention another country. The researchers are arguing that two countries can have comparably different or comparably similar precipitation levels and freshwater availability situations. So this isn't our answer because it doesn't even mention another country that we can compare Brazil to. If we look at D, Sierra Leone and Australia have very similar amounts of precipitation of freshwater resources, but very different precipitation levels. Now, let's take a look at these tables as our fourth step, because we can't really immediately eliminate A or D without taking, a further look. So let's take a look at this. Canada and Australia have similar precipitation levels. So our precipitation levels, Canada, Australia, you're only 3 apart. So I would say that this part of the question is true, right? And similar amounts of freshwater, and different amounts of freshwater resources per capita. Well, you see 75,000 versus 19,000, you say this is true as well. So immediately you think, well, the answer is probably A. But what if it's not? We should always eliminate all of our answer choices before we move on, so let's take a look at D. Sierra Leone and Australia have very similar amounts of freshwater resources. Let's take a look at that. This is true, but very different precipitation levels. Also true. But here's the problem. This is not what the researchers are arguing. All right, if we take a look at this, the researchers are arguing similar precipitation levels and different freshwater availability situations, which is again the opposite of what this is. So this is also not the answer. Therefore, the answer is A. I would rate this an easier question.